first question is, who are you?
Like emotionally, mentally, physically? What sort of question is this? Astrological plane? John Walter, is that what you're asking? My name? Yes, that's my name.
I'm John Walter from Racing Watch.
Well, I'm from Narrabeen, North Sydney, Earth. But also work for Racing Watch, who's I guess myself. So I am Racing Watch, yes.
Why do you bet?
To eat, because it's in my blood. Why do I bet? Because it's a game I once thought was, very enjoyable. Still is, but, testing at times.
Who's been your biggest mentor or inspiration to bet?
Daryl the Hat, the crazy postman who walks around everywhere with his hat, doesn't carry a post bag anymore, but wears his hat in the shower. And does that scare you, that he's my greatest inspiration? No, all the lunatics that I've met along the way that you've picked up things from, I guess. I've not got one, learned a lot at Humbleton or whatever, but it was sort of more logical stuff. All the key things that I've picked up have been from pretty crazy people.
So when did you start at Humbleton? So that's Gelco's operation.
Yeah, so I finished in 2007, I think, when EI was, so maybe 2003, 2004, something like that.
What's the one takeaway for a beginner punter that you learn at Humbleton? So if you're starting from absolutely scratch, what's the one key thing that Gelco uses?
So theirs is a bit more about consistency, I guess. Just, take it or leave it, that you were taught to do things their way, and that's what they were paying you to do. So your flair or whatever you want to add to it, that's not what they were looking for. So it was black and white cookie cutter stuff, but it did show that, consistency of your approach, whatever that is, was very important.
So did they teach you on how much of your own stamp, or did you put in
none.
Nothing? So did you just follow the process?
Yeah, really, and I think they kind of worked out more and more that, people with an opinion was not what they were after. They sort of didn't fit into at least the positions that I was in, like sort of at the bottom level, I guess it was, my video watching, that kind of thing. They just wanted you to view the vision and sort of give an answer and didn't want you to colour outside the boxes too much. So, yeah, I think they sort of worked out that they could pull people from university, different areas, and that didn't have any sort of knowledge of racing or anything, and they could probably get better answers from them. So none's the answer to how much they wanted you to add, and maybe that's why I didn't get along so well.
Do you think that your experience at Gelco, you learnt the most out of your experience at Gelco as a tape watcher, or is it more so studying tapes as a jockey manager?
Jockey manager was a long way down the track, but I learned a lot at Gelco's. I get the logical stuff all helped, and it gave you a good platform to add things to. I guess it's just like a perfect grounding, I guess is what you could say. Like before that, I was like completely unpolished, had been in round racetracks, learnt bits and pieces off trainers, been in a betting ring since I was 16, just going around learning off everyone, and not so much jockeys, but everyone else. And they sort of gave me a bit more of a formal grounding to add it all to. And their ideas are obviously very strong. They add things to it that, we'd never see, and not just, data-wise, but I'm sure they add a spin to things. But, then that's what kind of I've had to do now, is add my own spin onto their platform, I guess.
So how did you become a jockey manager?
I knew a couple of the boys, Tim and Josh, for quite a while prior. I can't even remember how I met them. I think it was through the lunatic tennis player, but either way, so I'd known him for a long time. Josh had an injury and was looking for a bit of a change on his return, and just sort of approached me, and I'd never thought about it as a possibility, but they talked to me about racing for long enough to kind of trust me enough to know that I had some sort of idea and that it may fit in, and that kind of just went from there.
So if you weren't a punter or a tipster now, is that what you'd like to do in an ideal world, go back to jockey management? Or now that you're out of it, are you happy to not have the pressure? Last time, I think the first time I met you up here, your phone was just going off its head and you looked like you're under the pump, didn't stop. Yeah,
I don't mind that, because you're sort of part of a team, and I thrive on that sort of thing. I was just talking to someone the other day, whether it was football growing up, I was first to training, last to leave. If I'm part of a team, I sort of thrive much more, put in a lot more effort, whereas if I'm left to my own devices, I can get lost a bit, and that's probably why I do Racing Watch as well, is it just sort of keeps you honest. If you know that your information you're providing is for other people, not just yourself, it definitely makes me try a bit harder, put in a bit more, and And it was the same with the jockey management side of things. It was punishing but rewarding, and you were always sort of part of a team. I loved it. Like, it obviously got a bit sour towards the end, nothing to do with the boys at all, just the way, you know, they changed rules and things, and it wasn't what it was. But yeah, no, I think if I could have my time over again, rider's agent, and if you, I don't know why you can't sort of add in the extra layer of being sort of more of like a sports manager to these sort of guys. I think they need it. That would have been a really enjoyable path if punting wasn't involved at all.
How have you found the stream so far? I guess it's a little bit tricky. It's not really a team environment, but you bring, I guess, your knowledge of, say, Sydney and with the guys in Victoria, and you have to handle a bank.
Yeah, it is and isn't, and there's no perfect answer. That's a problem, sort of, and it's not realistic, as in the way sort of myself or anyone else that you've been on the stream would handle things. It is for that day, but you're also got an added dynamic of, you know, trying to add a little bit of entertainment, excitement. Take advantage of situations that may not be ideal, but they are the best situation on that day, sort of. So it just takes things to an extreme. Sometimes it falls well, sometimes it doesn't. All of them have been enjoyable. I've learnt things off, I would say, everyone that I've been on a stream with, which is another positive. And you know, it's just a, you know, I like it is a bit of a game again, which is anything. I enjoy that sort of situation usually. Obviously, you're not always going to get the perfect result, which is not ideal, but that's what we strive for.
So you're excited about, I guess, the format of the four-man competition, semi-final, then knockout, and then grand final, and then I guess the prospect of going to the US Masters. Yeah.
Well, that's the dream, isn't it, or whatever. I've never been there, which is a sort of a bucket list for a lot of people. I know you've been there, luckily enough, and on a good year too, which would be even more exciting, but I don't think there's ever a bad year to go to Augusta. I don't know if there'll be anyone playing next year. That'll be interesting. It could be a field of about 8 people if Liv take everyone on, but no, we might get a start. We might get a game. We might get a peg up. But no, good. And I've never done anything like this. The four-man team, four-man sort of playoff situation is kind of exciting. Be interested to see how it even falls first week. You know, whether you sort of, if I was, for argument's sake, taking on Marc Lambourne, and we'd be sort of head-to-head in our similar area, or taking on someone like Anthony Don, who could be betting at Singapore Trots, or you just never know, whatever trials well, or Johnny McLeod, who I'm assuming would stick to his own backyard pretty closely. So I think it'll be good fun, and it's, you know, just whoever best man on the day wins, right?
Who do you think would be the hardest punter to take down, and who'd be favourite in the tournament?
I honestly, I think Donny's the wild card, because he brings a bit more of a fresh attitude towards it. You know, the other two, in my opinion, are, you know, like really sort of regimented, long-term chip away punters, whereas Donny's dangerous. You know, like you don't know what he's going to put together, and I mean that in all seriousness. You know, like he's capable of finding, you know, things that they're not going to even be looking at, and they're probably just going to be looking at the numbers and trying to grind out a victory. Whereas I think both of us are similar. We're both pretty dangerous compared to the other two, I would imagine. I think they're more conservative, is where I'm coming from.
I think it's only one-day format, as you said before, so it's going to be cat and mouse, so 2 on 2. I guess, having the stream experience in the past, will you play to beat the man, or will you just try and find a couple of key bets to anchor your day, or just on the fly?
Ideally, ideally, the way I sort of attack meetings is looking for sort of value, false favourites, that sort of thing. And yeah, so I won't be afraid to play outside the market. I doubt that, you know, it'd be a bad day if I'm sort of coupling up short price favourites or diving into favourites, in multiple races sort of thing. Whereas I think that could be the approach of the other boys, you know, backing 2 or 3 in the one race and trying to grind out just a return. My number one player will be trying to find, you know, a couple of good targets that you can sort of couple things into, maybe even if they're at odds, and trying to, you know, sort of build a result that I think's uncatchable from the way they'll approach it. I'll be happy to play my own game.
What do you think the hardest thing about betting is?
These days, probably still patience, because it's just there's the added dynamics, even like you're missing prices. Things are so volatile compared to what they were. Getting on's harder, you know, as I said, like, and things can work in your favour. I'm not saying it's all bad. It's not doom and gloom. You know, like things, there was a horse today that's going that, you know, can change from $1.80 to $2.80 in the last 5 minutes of betting. Those sorts of things didn't happen so much before. You've just got to, you know, be more patient, be more flexible, and be on your toes a bit more now. But yeah, I think patience is probably the key to racing, and you know, being across everything as much as you can.
Would you say you ever go on tilt, or you get a bit rattled with a result or a bad result, and then I guess how do you handle it or cope with it?
I do openly, as in I do get frustrated. Does it change the way I do things? No. Do I get on tilt and bet out of character, like too heavily chase things? Not really at all. I don't think so. But it certainly does affect your immediate decision making, I would say. So I try and just cool off before I do anything.
Who are you?
Who am I? It depends who you ask.